Hey guys, Weeb here. Welcome to today's class guide on the Soul Dancer in Dragon Raja. As always, check the Google Doc that is below the video and have a look through there, as we'll have any updated information on the class that we were unable to get and we will get on official release, like later talents and stuff like that. I don't want to give information based on another client because the translations are always a little bit sketchy and sometimes there are changes, so this will be updated after Global officially releases on the 27th. Okay, so let's talk about the Soul Dancer. So the Soul Dancer is the main utility class of Dragon Raja. It has two general modes. One is kind of a ranged DPS-y, and the other one is support mode. Between range damage and overall powerful support skills, the Soul Dancer will be very popular because it fulfills both roles and will be welcomed in any content due to your heals and buffs. So your pros. You are the core of the team. You can use a lot of assist skills and heal skills and stuff like that people need at least one of in every single dungeon. So you're definitely going to be welcome in contact, and unless the class is extremely popular, you should have no problems getting parties for anything that you need to do from day to day. Easier class to play. So assuming you use the skills in roughly the right order, the class isn't as punishing as the other classes on like positioning and, mobility. You have heals, so if you can do damage, you can recover slightly and stuff like that. And you're able to be a longer range too, so avoiding a lot of the skills that bosses use around them, like melee, AoE, cones, and stuff like that. So the class is a lot easier to play, and it is strong and needed in a lot of content anyway. So people will play it, and I think overall it'll be popular and it'll be good for people that don't want to, min-max or want to play a slightly more casual role in the game. Okay, so for the cons. While it does have a ranged form, it does okay damage, so you can play it as a ranged if you want. But the DPS will not compare against the other DPS classes. It is a support class with a range. It's not really a DPS class with a couple of support abilities. So you can play it as a DPS if you want to. But at the end of the day, you're simply not going to pull the same DPS as the other classes if you try to play it as a DPS main and just support abilities every now and then class. So the self-protection is a little weak. So a lot of your skills are aimed at healing and protecting the group as a whole. And you can heal yourself like small amounts, for example, but you don't have skills like healers do in most games. For example, a one-shot heal to heal your entire HP back in case of emergency. You don't have something like that. You have smaller heals and more AoEs and defensive and buffs and stuff like that, but you don't have any, oh my god, get me out of this situation emergency heal button. So keep that in mind. Okay, so let's have a look at the first section of skills. Okay, so here, let's have a look at this ability first. Soul Dancer's Pact. Form a pact with an ally. When the pact is in effect, time expansion will cause pact partner to gain time twist if they are within 10 meters. Increase size, increase speed, increase cooldown reduction, reduce damage received. Generally, I would use this on whoever's tanking because it reduces damage intake, but you can also use it on somebody who does a lot of damage because it reduces their cooldowns. So the ability it talks about here is time expansion, which is the one we're going to look at here. Time expansion. It greatly increases movement speed, crit resistance, and cooldown reduction for 12 seconds. 30-second cooldown. When time expansion is used, if there is a pact with an ally and the pact partner is less than 10 meters away, so you have to be relatively close, pact partner will also gain 30% increased size, 30% increased movement speed, 20% reduced damage, which is what it was talking about up here. So basically, when you use time expansion, it's going to power up the person that you're linked with, which in my personal opinion should probably be the tank. Okay, next up is Azure Mark. Creates an alchemy circle within 5 meters of the target, dealing heavy damage up to 5 random enemies within per second for 8 seconds. 20-second cooldown. So during the circle period, it deals 45,000 damage to a single unit. So that would be 45,000 spread over 8 units if you hit 8 different units. So it's not actually like 45,000 times 8, it's 45,000 total. So don't get that confused. But it is basically just an AoE, pull the mobs together AoE skill. Next up is Phase Shock. So, Shockwave deals heavy damage to up to 5 enemies and causes damaged enemies to take an additional 5% damage for 8 seconds. So, for example, an assassin has a couple of abilities to pull mobs into a tight circle, and so do other classes. I would hold on to this until somebody uses the AoE to pull the mobs in and then drop this on their head, because other classes are going to want to pull them in and do AoE, and this 5%, when combined with all the AoE, is a lot more than you would get, say, using on 2 targets. Gemini will stay at the target location temporarily. So basically that's telling you where the point is where you're doing more damage. 10-second cooldown. So 10-second cooldown on this is actually pretty neat. And it does 17,000 damage. So you can use this quite commonly. And it's a good buff and will probably get more powerful when you level it up later on. Ice Glare Shock. So there are ways to boost this, keep in mind. Combo magic attack that deals magic damage to the target up to 5 nearby enemies. Heal a small amount of HP. Frost Strike slows targets by 20% for 3 seconds. So I believe there's a couple of talents that can make Ice Glance Shock more powerful when used in conjunction with other abilities, and probably your main damaging ability when it comes to range. And it does slow enemies down. Overall, I think you should probably be focusing a little bit more on the support abilities, because like doing 5% more damage for 4 or 5 other classes is probably going to do more damage than you're doing here. But if you use the other ability, which I believe was Phase Shock, and then follow up by basically spamming Ice Glare, probably the most amount of damage that you can do and heal yourself at the same time. So as you just saw, it's not very complicated to use the abilities on this class. It's pretty straightforward when you should use them and why you should use them. So you really shouldn't have many issues if you're not necessarily a big MMO player or a bit more of a casual. So let's have a look at the talent, shall we? So we have Ballad in the Snow. You release Ice Glare Shock damage increased by 35%. So, but losing its healing ability, the Soul Dancer's 5th Ice Glare Shock will freeze enemies for 3 seconds. So as I just mentioned a moment ago, Ice Glare Shock, which hits at the 5 enemies, if you want to drastically increase your damage and maybe lower your healing a little bit, maybe for dungeons that are easier and you don't need to do as much healing, then you're probably going to want to use Ballad in the Snow. Sand of Time. Each time you use a class skill, you get a stack of Sand of Time that increases crit rate by 4% up to 10 seconds, stacks up to 5 stacks. I'm not so sure about this. The reason I'm not so sure about this is because generally you're not going to be using 5 abilities in 10 seconds, right? Like, you can, but a lot of your abilities are support and kind of need to be used at a certain period of time. So, for example, if I spammed all my heal abilities and, like, bang, 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 just to get my 20% crit, I'm going to get 2 abilities on 20% crit, and all my abilities are going to be on different cooldowns, and they're not going to be up when I need them. So I generally wouldn't use this unless I was spamming Ice Glare Shock, but if I was spamming Ice Glare Shock, you'd be using Ballad in the Snow anyway. Soul Link. When the HP of you and your target affected by Twin Pact are different. So the ability back here, the Twin Pact, when you are linked to them. Okay, so, oh, my bad. So the ability, if we go back into skills, and we go to talents, and we go to B, and go to here. So, okay, Soul Link. When the HP of you and your target affected by Twins Pact are different, the higher HP one will transfer HP to another. This effect only works when both parties are linked and every 5 seconds auto transfer once. So basically what this does is, say for example you have a tank and you're linked to them, and your tank say takes 80% HP and you're still at 100%. Every 5 seconds it'll take HP from you and give it to them. So if one of you is hit by AoE and the other one's not, it'll basically transfer the HP and prevent the other person from dropping. Keep in mind though, if you use this on somebody that gets hit a lot, you're going to be losing a lot of HP, which can be very annoying. Okay, Dance with Swans. When releasing Phase Shock, if Soul Dancer enters Mark of Azure range, Resonance becomes active, causing Phase Shock damage to increase by 30%. So Phase Shock, which is located here. So if you use Azure Mark and then go in there, or go close to it, Phase Shock's damage will be increased, which is the extra damage and the 5% more. So you'd go Azure Mark, followed up by Phase Shock and Ice Glare Shock to do a lot of damage. Okay. Law of time. When time expansion is active, using time lock causes time lock cooldown to be reduced by 5 seconds. I personally think that this talent is worthless. The reason I say this is because time lock's cooldown is 45 seconds or 40 seconds, and reducing by 5 seconds is worthless, and the other talents are simply better. Loki's trick. Witch's Kiss will polymorph another one target. So when we talked about earlier, turning them into a duck and making them take a lot more damage, this will make it so you do 2 targets instead of 1, and it decreases the defense by another 10%. So honestly, unless you're doing more damage here, if you're going more damage, I would go with Dance of the Swans. But if you're going more supportive route for your party, go Loki's trick so you can reduce the defense by even more and hitting multiple targets so they can AoE more. Stopped Pendulum. Dealt damage to targets controlled by the mark of Azure time stop increased by 25%. So Azure time stop, they take an extra 25% damage. I'm not sure if that's an extra 25% damage for the entire party or just you. If it's for the entire party, this would be a crazy ability. If it's just for yourself, not so much. When using time lock, shadowy light cooldown is reduced by 10 seconds. So as I mentioned a moment ago, time lock's cooldown is like 40 seconds. So every 40 seconds, which you're not going to use it as soon as it comes back up anyway, it reduces shadowy light, which I believe is like 30 seconds down to 20 seconds. Which is more situational use anyway, so overall, I don't really like this talent very much. During time expansion, release Ice Glare Shock, and hitting all targets will reduce the cooldown of Ice Glare Shock by 1 second. So if you use time expansion and Azure Shock and the talent down here, you would be able to use them all in conjunction and basically spam Ice Glare Shock over and over again, hitting all the enemies and doing more damage for quite a lot of damage if that's what you want to go with. Okay, so next up is Murmur's Spring. When Light Beacon is released, increase CDR of allies within 10 meter radius by 40% for 15 seconds. This effect only occurs once every 2 minutes. So while talking about that, let's actually go into EX and go to Light Beacon. This is the ability that activates that cooldown reduction. Erect a light barrier, healing affected allies unit by 10,000 HP per second. Duration 10 seconds. Effect do not stack for multiple beacons of light. Honestly, for the healer class, it seems that you get heavily punished on basically every one of your abilities if you try to take 2 in. So you definitely only want to bring 1 into the party. And as you see at the next tier, it's even more powerful. So the Light Beacon is basically your AoE heal. And when you use it, despite the fact that this can be used every 60 seconds, every 2 times that you use it will give a massive cooldown reduction to people to help, people finish off bosses or other people in PvP or whatever else. So it's used both as a heal and as a big buff. Okay, so we might as well have a look at the other X ability while we're here. So knocks up the target when casting EX times 0, dealing 5,000 magical damage and forcing the target into time stop status for 3 seconds. So basically this is an immediate time stop, and for example, it's stops a mob from using an AoE, it'll stop somebody from comboing. For example, you could use it on an assassin in PvP, and when the assassin's throwing ham on you and trying to combo all his abilities together, time stop him for 3 seconds and he would be totally stumped and just stuck in place. Okay, so let's go back to the talents, and I believe we were in S. So we talked about this. This is the 40% cooldown reduction. Twin's Edge. When linked with Twin Pack, which is the link, move speed is increased by 15%, crit resistance by 10%, and cooldown reduction by 686. Meanwhile, the Twin Pack also gets 15% movement speed, 10% damage reduction, and 686 cooldown reduction. This effect does not stack with the time expansion skill. So I'm not entirely sure if you use the time expansion skill, if it just doesn't work on this partner or it goes to normal stats. But basically what this does is it gives you and your linked person basically a bit of a permanent buff, and you don't have to be using the time expansion skill to activate it, unlike the other people in the party. So this can be quite good if you want to give the tank some movement speed or somebody else some extra buffs the entire time. When releasing Recall Light, both parties of Twin Pack gain 2 buffs among crit, multi-strike, and penetration up. So as we talked about earlier, where you get 1 of 3 random abilities and you can't really predict it, so it's kind of sketchy to play with, this would give you 2 of the 3 buffs, making it a little more predictable. Even with that though, I would probably go Murmur's Spring for the 40% cooldown reduction, because I feel like while that is a longer cooldown, I feel like it's just so insanely powerful that it would be a little bit foolish to give it up. Okay, so now that we've talked about the skills, let's actually have a look at the skills firsthand. So let's turn off auto combat. Unfortunately, some of the skills we can't really use because we don't have people in our party. Okay, so this is your basically F key, which you can do damage from long range while running around and cutting. Okay, so there's our Q. Okay. There is our AoE. There's our damage. So then we have this ability down here. That's our heal. As you can see, it's healing me. Okay, so let's switch skills out. There's the chicken. This, I believe, is the time stop. As you can see now, they're stopped. They can't do anything. Then they basically hold there for a couple of seconds. And last, I used Gemini and then didn't use any abilities after, so Gemini didn't actually do anything. So basically, that is how the abilities look and how the skills work on this class. As I mentioned earlier, this class is a lot easier to play for other people, and I feel like it'd be very popular. If you're going to play with a friend, a majority of the time, definitely don't both pick healers because you will be gimped if you both take healers into a 4 or 5 minute dungeon because of the ability stopping each other from stacking on top of each other. That covers everything for today's guide on the Soul Dancer. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.